Welcome to Creative Tien channel. Today I have a hand knit stitch tutorial. It's a double-sided stockinette stitch and a fisherman's rib. And both of them create a reversible stitch, so it looks the same on both sides and the fabric will not curl. They look similar to the brioche stitch, but they are very easy to knit. I'm going to knit it flat back and forth, so you can use either straight needle or the circular needle. Here is a quick view of the example. Here is the double stockinette stitch. On the front and back side, they all look like a knit stitch. And here is the fisherman's rib. And compared to the double stockinette stitch, the fisherman's rib is wider and the stitch looks bigger. I'm going to use this yarn is variegated color. For this stitch, I will cast on even number such as 2, 4, 6, 8. And the first and last stitch will be the selvage stitch. And in this case, I will just use knit. So I will knit every first and last stitch of every row. I will start with a slip knot, like that, and just use long tail cast on, or you can use any cast on method, doesn't matter. And I cast on 14 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. For the double stockinette stitch, we want to repeat knit 1 stitch and slip 1 stitch as if to purl with the yarn in the front. I have the 14 stitches now. I'm going to start with the first stitch. That's just a regular knit stitch. And then I will start my slip stitch, but I want to make sure the yarn is in the front. Because we are alternating knit and slip, so the yarn is usually in the back. So we bring it to the front and slip purlwise. This is purlwise. If we do this, it's knitwise, as if to knit, and this is as if to purl. For this stitch, we will slip as if to purl. And then we'll go back to the knit stitch. With the knit stitch, you want the yarn in the back. So we move the yarn to the back, knit 1 stitch, and then we'll keep repeat. We want to slip with the yarn in the front and slip purlwise. And go back to knit, move yarn to the back, knit 1 stitch, move yarn to the front, slip. Move yarn to the back, knit 1 stitch. And for the last stitch, because I want to have selvage stitch, I will just knit. If you don't want to use selvage stitch, you can continue in pattern and do the slip stitch. I will do a regular knit for the last stitch and the first stitch of every row. So that's our first row. And we will turn it around and continue. Pretty much, this is just 1 row repeat. It will be the same. So we will do the same. The first stitch, I want to do the selvage, just a knit stitch. And then we'll start the slip stitch with the yarn in the front, slip, pull the yarn in the back, and knit. So if you look closely, you can see this stitch has a horizontal bar below. That's a purl stitch. So we will slip that stitch purlwise and then knit the next stitch with the yarn in the back. We'll knit this stitch. And here again, you see the horizontal line below. Move yarn to the front and slip. Move yarn to the back. Knit the next stitch. Move yarn to the front. Slip. yarn to the back, and knit. And the last stitch I will knit it because that's an edge stitch. So that's the second row. And we just keep repeating the same again and again. We turn over, knit the first stitch, and then move yarn to the front and slip. You see that horizontal line? That's a purl stitch. We slip that and move yarn to the back and knit. Move yarn to the front, slip, move yarn to the back, knit, and we'll just keep repeating that. Slip. The last one, we will knit. And we do the same for every row, and you will start to see the pattern coming up. Now I make a little square. It's identical on both sides, and I'm going to bind off. To bind off, you can follow the pattern. There's a knit and a purl stitch alternating. I will start with the knit stitch. And the next one is purl, so I make a purl stitch. And I move the second stitch over. Now one stitch is reduced. The next stitch is knit, so we'll do a knit stitch. And move the second stitch over. One stitch reduced. And the next one is purl, so we'll make a purl stitch with a yarn in the front, purl. And we just keep repeating that, one knit stitch and one purl stitch. So that's our double stockinette stitches. It's kind of stretchy and identical on both sides. The next we want to do the fisherman's rib. It's also very similar, and we want to cast on even number of stitches. So I will do 14 stitches again. And I will cast on the same way with a slip knot and a long tail cast on for 14 stitches. For this pattern, I also want to keep the first and last stitch as a salvage stitch, so I will knit the first and last stitch. And for the setup row, it's the purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, just keep repeating. We'll start with knit 1, the salvage, and we'll stop the repeat, P1, K1. The purl is with the yarn in the front, make a purl. Yarn in the back, make a knit. And the yarn in the front, purl. Move yarn to the back, knit. And we'll just keep repeating that. Now the last two stitches, we have to do a knit stitch. And I always keep the last one knit 1 because that's a salvage. Now we can turn over and we start the repeating row. We have one repeating row for every row after the setup row. So for the repeating row, the first and last stitch will always be knit 1. That's just a salvage. You can change that because there are so many salvage stitches you can use. And the repeat is only 2 stitches. You purl 1 stitch and then knit 1 below. And I will show you how to do that. Knit 1. And we'll start a repeat. Tighten a little bit. We'll do the P1, purl 1, that's easy. Move the yarn to the front and the purl. And then we'll do the knit 1B. So we have to move the yarn to the back for the knit stitch. And instead of just knit like this way, like a regular knit one, we knit it below. So you can see there's a stitch here, there's a circle or a V, and we're going to insert needle to the center of that V, like that. So instead of the top, we go below. So that's called knit 1B, knit 1 below. We insert the needle into the center of the V and knit 1, like that. And we'll just keep repeating those 2 stitches. Purl, move the yarn to the front and purl. And then knit 1 below, move yarn to the back. And find the V. We'll insert to the center of the V. And the knit. Purl again. And then move yarn to the back. We'll knit 1B, knit 1 below. We insert to the center of the V. And we only have 1 stitch left. And for the last stitch, I will do a knit 1 for salvage. So that's basically the repeating row. And we can turn over and repeat the same. We'll knit first stitch. And then purl. It's a yarn in the front, purl. And then yarn to the back, knit 1 below. We start the repeat, knit 1 below. And then purl. And then yarn to the back, knit 1 below. That's what it looks like. We will need a couple more rows and you will start to see the pattern. So we'll keep repeating the same. Knit 1 row, purl 1, knit 1 below, purl 1, knit 1 below, purl 1, knit 1 below until the last stitch, and we'll knit. And it's the same for every row. To bind off, we do it the same way. We'll alternate knit and purl stitches. So I will knit 1, purl 1, and place a second stitch through the first. That's 1 stitch reduced. And we'll continue knit 1, reduce 1 stitch, and then purl 1, move yarn to the front, purl, and then reduce 1 stitch. So this is the double stockinette stitch, and this is the fisherman's rib. You can see fisherman's rib is a little bit wider, and it takes more yarn to knit a square. And this is the double stockinette. It looks the same on both sides. One tip is to use a larger size needle because this is a very thick fabric and it's easier to use bigger needles. And I think this is perfect for a blanket knitting or a scarf because it's very squishy, very warm, and also it doesn't curl. Thank you so much for watching today, and see you in the next video.